and good evening. Welcome to the Wakefield School Committee meeting of Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. We will call the meeting to order. Second item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, which we are lucky enough to have Wakefield Girl Scout Troop 83417 here with us in studio to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So I think we all maybe want to stand up. And if you have a preference of flag, there's one in that corner, there's one behind me, wherever you would like to go.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Would maybe one of the scouts or two of the scouts like to tell us why you're in WCAT this evening? How about, I see two are closest to the chairs. I happen to know your names are Sydney and Vita. So you just happen to be in studio this evening. You want to give us a rundown of maybe why that is?
We're at the studio because we're doing a video for selling Girl Scout cookies to get people to buy and so that we can reach our goal.
That's great. What about you, Vita?
Kind of the same thing as what Sydney said. We're working on the entertainment technology badge.
Oh, that's amazing. What a great place to learn about that. WCAT is awesome.
Where are you selling them?
We sell them all around Wakefield and sometimes in Walmart or T-booths and like Walmart and malls.
We got to figure out a way to get these the Girl Scout cookies to central office. We could buy
Should
some
we all
boxes.
share our favorite Girl Scout cookies? I like the caramel delights.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. I hope you had a great time at WCAT, and good luck on your patch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nicely done, girls.
Yeah. If there's anyone else for public comments, I think we have our 4th of July parade committee. If you'd like to introduce yourselves officially, although Barbara, I know you're a veteran, so.
You did not? Okay, I won't wear mine then. Okay, I'm Barbara Worley. Are we supposed to say our address, or is that something else?
Yes.
Okay, 157 Parker Road. I work at WCAT part-time, and I'm doing the parade full-time. Volunteer, says volunteer on my back, and I have with me,
Kevin Sheeler, 6 Houston Street.
and we're both board members of Wakefield Independent Day Committee. Okay, so we bring you greetings from Wakefield Independence Day Committee. The parade will go on, following in the very big footsteps of longtime former Chairman Brian Fox. The theme of the Always Patriotic Parade this year is Celebrate July 4th in Wakefield. We especially want to encourage folks to start now to plan floats and acts to participate in the parade. School groups, dance groups, businesses, organizations, etc. Rumor has it that the Wakefield Area Chamber of Commerce will be the first float. We're going to hold them to that. We already have a trailer for them ready. We're often asked why the Wakefield High School Band hasn't marched in many years, and we understand the situation. A couple of the committee members are looking into the idea of a subset of the high school marching band or color guard marching more informally, like in jeans or something. And also we are in touch with the award-winning high school dance team. They are considering marching. Big news, we have the 82-member Lakeside Lutheran High School Band coming from Lake Mills, Wisconsin, marching and staying July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at the luxurious Hotel Galvin. And the band is on a 2-week tour performing in New York and New England. Tom Stapleton, who's over here, and Dory Stapleton will be the liaison to the Galvin and to the band during their stay. We also have a verbal commitment from the 7th Regiment Drum and Bugle Corps based in New London, Connecticut. And this is a big deal because the drum and bugle corps, they come from all over and they have to, audition to be in their drum and bugle corps. So it's exciting that they are coming. Yes, because the parade starts now, so does fundraising. January 25th, we are holding an evening of comedy with the West Side Social Club, the producers of the July 4th morning children's activities and fireworks. Wakefield's own Paul D'Angelo is headlining the evening. Tickets are at West Side Social Club or email info@julyparade.org. We also have them on Facebook. We think the event may sell out, so if you're thinking about getting a table, you should do it pretty soon. And a business and individual fundraising has started, and WMGLD will be putting the envelope in their bills. The April vacation carnival is April 23rd to 26th. That's already lined up, and that's a big fundraiser for the parade. And back to floats and parade acts. You don't need to have a huge flatbed truck. There are other options. There's a rumor that the Wakefield Sons and Daughters of Italy are cooking up something with a VW bug. I'm not going to say anything else on that, but it's going to be cool. And you can also have creative entries such as Odyssey Day School's Halloween in July, where they're going to be in their Halloween costumes and be a walking unit. And I just heard and talked to a dad in the troop. They're going to do a cookie booth float and have the girls walking with the float. So celebrate July 4th in Wakefield. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
That's great.
I'll take them with me.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Great. For reading of our mission statement, I think we have our youth advisor, Ala, online on Zoom. Ala, are you with us? Can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me?
Are you available to read our mission statement?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident, lifelong learners who are respectful and caring members of their community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing a rich and challenging curriculum, high-quality instruction, and educational experiences that meet their individual needs and interests.
Great. You did that flawlessly. Good job. Would you like to maybe roll right into your youth advisor update?
Oh, yes, we only have one update because we just got back from our long break,
Yeah.
which I heard is long for next year, or might be.
Fingers crossed.
But tomorrow night we're welcoming 8th grade families to the high school for like an open house. I think I'll be there tomorrow night, but I remember it was really fun last year because we got to since I'm like an upperclassman now, I'm thinking back on like when I was a freshman and when I did this, and I was scared to come to the school, so I always like going to that because I feel like it's fun to just see the younger group of kids that'll be coming in.
That's fantastic.
But that was my only update for today.
That's great. Any questions for Ala?
Nicely done.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Moving on to item agenda number 6, we have a consent agenda.
Yeah, motion to accept the Student Services Subcommittee minutes of, wait for it, scrolling down. Sorry, December 16th, 2024.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? No? Those in favor? And unanimous. All right, thank you. Item number 7, budget items. Ms. Patida?
Good evening. Tonight you have the financial report through December 31st, 2024. We're actually at the halfway mark, if you can believe it, of fiscal 25. With all of the encumbrances, we have about 6.34% remaining. We do have a couple of lines that you can see that are over budget, but as we approach the year and go to the year end, we'll do some budget transfers to make sure that the bottom line is to the correct available balance. Then you'll see we're spending on our grants, which must be spent because we cannot return that money to the state. For the most part, we have some encumbrances still. We have some paraprofessionals on our SPED IDEA grant. But we do have a little bit more of METCO to be spent for the remainder of this year. And then the last page is the revolving accounts. We do have some transfers to be done at the end of this year. As you recall, we talked about transferring money from the revolving accounts to balance the local budget. So that will be done as we're approaching year end, to the tune of $325,000. We still have 2 more circuit breaker payments to receive. We'll receive about $1.5 million. We're gonna have to use that for our whatever additional out-of-district tuitions that come in for this year, and whatever remaining in that account will carry for next year to help us balance as we're entering into fiscal 26. If anyone has any questions?
Kevin?
Christine, I just want to pick up with what we were talking about just before the meeting. So I'd asked about the contracted services. And so from what I understand, that's kind of based upon like some needs that we've had to contract out. As we start looking at next year's budget, is that something that we're going to look at in terms of like personnel, or, you know, what would be maybe the strategy?
So of course, we would always look to hire FTEs, because for the most part, as you know, that would probably be more cost effective.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
But it's driven by IEPs and what services. You might not always be able to find those positions. But that will be definitely part of our conversation with when Doug and I and Kara meet with Rosie Galvin about the special ed program for next year. But special ed is one of our significant driver forces for next year's budget. But as you can see, it's something that we'll have to look at because we're significantly over on that line.
Yeah. Okay, I was wondering how that would work.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. We have payroll warrants.
Yes, we have the payrolls for December. We have a motion?
Move that the school committee approve payroll warrants number 24 and number 26 as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none. Those in favor? And that is also unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving along, item number 8, superintendent's remarks.
Thank you. Just starting off with comments and updates. I know Ala mentioned on tomorrow night, 1/8, we welcome 8th graders for information night, which will run 6 to 8 tomorrow night. The 17th is an early release to Professional Development Day. Just a reminder for parents, 1/17 is an early release. 1/20, there's no school, it's MLK Day. And the term 2 ends on the 24th. So we're cruising through the school year, and would like to welcome everybody back for 2025 and say Happy New Year, and we're wishing everybody well. And so at this point, I can kind of move down my agenda items, and I can invite Tim up to the table to talk about capital, and then about how we're progressing with construction.
Evening.
Hello.
Nice to see you all. Starting with capital. Just want to review with you all our planned capital requests for this year. Once we get it up on the board, you want me to just...
If it's easier to start
Have a
with
click.
construction, we can.
This is a different...
Oh.
I think it's got it.
I know it's a different slide, I just didn't know if it was easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whichever is fine. That's not the way I prepped for it, though.
Don't change the plan.
My mistake, I should have queued him up.
And it's in the packet, too.
Okay, great. So we'll start, as usual, with Tier 1 and move our way down. Tier 1 district-wide, we're looking for $125,000 this year to do a two-way radio upgrade and replacement. What that means is we're looking to naturally bring the technology up to snuff that we're using in schools. It's been a long time since we've seen any upgrades in that technology. And some of the operability that would give us is we'd be able to communicate school to school and also with the police department in the event of emergency, police and fire. So right now, we don't necessarily have, everybody doesn't have the capabilities. Let's say, for example, Wakefield Academy. In the afternoon, if one site needs to communicate with another, and without in the event that you weren't able to use a cell phone, we want to be able to communicate building to building. And again, if we did have a major event or an emergency at school, we want to be able to communicate with police and fire. This is more along the lines of some of the safety work we've been doing over the past 2 fiscal years, and something that we're committed to make sure that our schools are as safe as they possibly can. So that's a big priority for us. Moving down the list, and this is really kind of a capstone project for all of our playground work that we've done for years. The elementary playground area in the rear of Dahlberg is the last playground left that isn't either completed or planned to be resurfaced with the rubber surfacing. These rubber surfacing is sort of the gold standard when it comes to ADA accessibility on playgrounds, and we have it in every other playground that we're using now. So this would be a really nice way to finish that off throughout school playgrounds across the town. Moving down, you may remember this from last year, I'm asking for $75,000 to complete the play area project at Walton. We are still, we've tried a lot of different things. We've talked about this a lot. There's been a lot of coordination between departments. And ultimately, we believe this is the best way forward to bring back irrigation, to take out some of the current surface that's there. It's really just dust and dirt. Put some higher quality material down that will actually be able to grow some grass with some roots and not have it be sort of a dust bowl back there. It's definitely something that, I know that Pat Manzi, the head custodian at Walton, would appreciate us not dragging that dust and dirt all the way through the building. It definitely poses a challenge for us cleaning the building on a nightly basis, but also, we think that the children that are attending Walton certainly deserve a worthy play space, and so we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support that. Moving further down to Doyle, we were working to do an electrical service upgrade there. We recently did some upgrades to a kitchen space at Doyle, and we are in a position now where we need more out of our electrical service to power some of the equipment that we have in place at Doyle. And so it was something that was recommended by the electricians when we did that upgrade work, that we need to start looking at down the line upgrading that electrical service. So that's a major priority for us right now is getting that work done. You may remember we had requested money for the Greenwood for similar work and are hoping to have that done early this summer. So hopefully the two will happen on the same timeline. Moving down to Tier 2, this is something that's been discussed between myself and Tom Bankert over the last few years. We have original equipment from when Galvin was built. That fly system, because of the nature of that business, and this was sort of secondhand through Tom's knowledge, the company who installed that equipment just no longer exists. And there's been a few that we've dealt with in the following time. So in order to try and repair the system that we have, it's just not been fruitful for us.
would you be kind enough to describe what the system is?
Sure, sort of the rigging system for the curtains and the like at in the Galvin Auditorium. Sorry, I should have been much more specific.
Okay.
This stuff lives in my head all the time, so you guys aren't all there. So yeah, so if you're attending town meeting at Galvin or a play, one of the plays that's put on by our schools, you'll see that there's a whole myriad of different curtains that are used, and currently there's only 2 people who are able to manipulate the system that we have manually, which is just, it's not the function that we need, and it's not how it was designed and intended. So we're looking for $350,000 to replace that system, and so that would be something that would, obviously for us is a major upgrade, but also the rentability of the space and our ability to generate money to reinvest into the building is compromised when you don't have a functional fly system. So it's something that that's becoming more and more of a priority, and something that I worked close with Tom Bankert on, and he worked with some of his contacts and got some quotes for us. So that's about the range that we're looking at to replace that system. Moving down to Tier 3, this is a project that this is a second year we've sort of been looking for funding here, $15,000. We're looking to make both sets of elevators at Galvin badge access only. This would allow us to limit the use of that elevator to staff and students who have permission or are in need of using that elevator on a daily basis. It's one of those things that gives us a little bit more security on the first floor naturally, and then just a little bit more control over who's using those elevators. Does anybody have any questions for me on capital?
Please.
So right now, for the elevators at the Galvin, like just anyone can go press the button and
pop on.
there's no, okay.
Correct. And you know, naturally, it's not a terrible thing, but at times it
Yeah.
can get a little,
Oh, yeah.
a little silly, a little overused, those type of things. So, and again, for security purposes as well. If we have visitors on the first floor, that sort of thing, it enables us to limit certain use of the elevator.
Anyone else?
Doug?
Dr. Lyons?
So I'd just like to share it to the committee and anyone that might be watching. One of the things that I've been working with Tim on is trying to price out a modular for Doyle, right? As you recall, as far back as our tri-board meeting, I had shared during that time we had turned 60 families away from Doyle, and we are just really busting at the seams in our preschool space. We're currently using 2 classrooms at Woodville, and if we could kind of have space over there to do therapy or even to add a class, it could be a win for us in that we're kind of getting more students from Wakefield into our pre-K system. That would really give us a really nice opportunity not only to support students and families in the community, but also give students the best opportunity to hit the ground running when they move into kindergarten. And so that's something that we're pricing out modulars right now due to the construction industry, and the need for those types of spaces are really, really expensive. So we're trying to be thoughtful about how that might be presented in capital, and how we might share that, and also how we might present that to the town so that it is kind of on a document and it's an understood fact that it's an ongoing need. This also correlates to our kind of thinking and projecting ahead for the additional construction that's happening in town, at the head of the lake and other areas as well. So we just, want to anticipate and be prepared to really welcome students into our schools as effectively as we can. So more to follow there, but our plan is to add something to this. I don't know on what tier, but to add something to this to move it ahead to the capital committee, which I'm sure will spur a lot of conversation, but we'll go from there.
And the modular would be in addition to the 2 classes currently at Woodville, more to capture some of those like 60 families that we sort of had to turn away during enrollment, sort of in the fall?
It would be in addition to the 2 classrooms that we're currently using at Woodville.
Yep.
And so if we're putting 12 to 15 students in a class, you look, 60 kids is essentially 4 classes.
Yep.
Right? And so that we couldn't build enough space there to accommodate all 60. But in the construction of the new high school, some of our classrooms are designated early childhood to support the early childhood programming so that high school students can learn about that option as well. But that is a space that we're also looking at, but that's not for another 2 years.
Yeah.
So, but we're just looking ahead, and we want to be prepared, and we want to be thoughtful about how we're talking about space, and also looking at it in a cost-effective way.
What size modulars are you guys talking about, and how many students do those usually accommodate?
This is we have this. I knew you were going to get right to it, and so we've been looking at some modules. We've been looking at modules about the size of the modules that they have that they're using for construction, which I learned today are 24 by 70, which I believe would be too big for the site at Doyle.
We could do about a 24 by 60 on site at Doyle.
But we might have to be more thoughtful and even scale it down for price reasons, because a unit like the one that's over next door for the construction project is really much more than I think either Tim or I anticipated. So we just want to be thoughtful about what we're moving forward and how, again, it might be cost effective and sustainable.
And procuring a modular unit right now is interesting too, because there's been a lot of change in the market. Larger businesses have bought each other, and you think you're getting a quote from one, and in reality they all own each other. So it's tough to chase down multiple quotes in the municipal space to be able to really narrow it down and try to get a better price. Kevin.
Just out of curiosity, are there rental options for modulars, or pretty much you have to buy them?
They are, and those are also pretty jarring when it comes
Really?
down to the pricing of that.
Okay.
So we're trying to work out what the best way forward might be.
Yeah.
But
This is going to be a hard question to answer, and I recognize
I'll do
that.
my
But do we foresee this continuing? Like, this is an issue at Doyle for preschool, but is this going to be an issue in a couple of years at the elementary schools? Because we're kind of busting at the seams at the elementary schools. High school, we're accommodating for it because we're making it bigger and accommodating more classrooms and for kids in our community. But do we foresee this being a continuous issue over the next few years? I know that's a really hard question to say because you have to get like your crystal ball out and see what happens, but.
Well, we, as part of our construction for part of our work with the new high school, we had to do what they call an enrollment study.
Yeah.
Which is a study of the population of births in the area and births in the town. And, we did a 10-year look. And there's space at the high school to accommodate some growth.
Right.
But your question, I think, is more than one part, which is your question is really related to elementary, middle, and high, correct? If I understand you correctly?
For high school, I kind of had the idea that we were building to accommodate what the population is going to be in a few years, but obviously our elementary schools are older.
Mm-hmm.
Dover's been around for a while, so like I'm just thinking, and we're already like full, like there's no room for extra classes, is what I'm saying, like in a lot of these elementary schools.
So there
We're
is
busting.
some room, we're pretty full at the elementary level. There is some room at Woodville and Dolbear, right now Dolbear. But it's something that we're going to need to look at kind of year by year now.
Yeah.
And so, we've talked about a number of different scenarios, but based on the enrollment projection, we should be able to accommodate what comes in terms of growth.
Okay.
A short time
Doyle's
ago.
also different because Doyle's a preschool.
Right.
And so there are other preschool options, not so in like elementary school, you live in Wakefield, you go to Wakefield
Right.
Elementary, whereas like there's Odyssey, there's like other, so people can send their kids to other schools.
Yeah.
What also happened during the pandemic is a lot of those daycare options folded. And so there are fewer options than there used to be like 4 years ago. So that's also increasing people's, put on top of that the fact that, Wakefield Public Schools is a phenomenal district and people just generally want to send their kids here. And that transition from the earlier, from Doyle into elementary is so seamless that it's attractive. We didn't do that with one of our kids, we did it with the second, it was so much easier. It was like you don't have to do any paperwork, well, it was the whole thing. So I think that's, while you do see this like very alarming swell in pre-K, it doesn't necessarily translate in a one-to-one like linear, oh my goodness, elementary. We are very full, but it's not that same like tidal wave that you might be seeing on paper for Doyle, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. No, it's just because like when I first started here, I remember the meeting talking about the 2 classrooms at Woodville, and now we're talking about building modular and Doyle. I'm like, wow, this is a very popular program. So
Woodville even started 1 classroom, right? And then that worked, and it
one
went to
and
2,
then 2,
and now it's more.
yeah. So it's just been continuously growing over the last couple of years. So I just didn't know if this was going to continue and then be a problem at the elementary schools. So
To get back to Tim's list, real quick.
Sure.
All the modulars are fantastic to discuss. If we could just go back to Tier 1 supports, so I had a question about two-way radio, which was, and you touched on it with police and fire. So would the new system not only be inter-school, but would be able to tie into the channel for fire and police? And if there were an emergency in our buildings, can they piggyback off of our radio system?
So we wouldn't necessarily be tapping into their communication. So if they were responding to an emergency, I can't be in my office and say, hey guys, nice job, But we would provide them with a piece of our system so that in the event that we needed to, we could communicate with them on a sort of a dedicated school channel.
Great.
If that makes sense.
And then they would, if they had to come to one of our sites and needed the use of that system, they can easily piggyback on
100%.
Great.
100%.
And I'm believing that you talked about this so the Walton play area. I think we talked about this when it got brought up in one of the other times, but there's a reason that we're not thinking about doing turf there, right?
So turf would bring a whole different sort of lens to it. We'd have to prep for drainage. It would cause a lot of neighborhood kind of fallout. We would have to prep the entire circumference of the area with drainage, just because naturally turf doesn't accept rainwater like regular grass does. So it would be a large expense.
That's right. Now that you say it, I think you mentioned that before.
I think we could make it look real nice doing it this way, and if kept up with, it would be nice for a long time.
Great. One question I had on elevator badge access is do you already know like sort of where the readers will be? Will they be for the call buttons in the hallways, and will they be on the first floor and the second floor?
And the third.
And the third?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll have to swipe a badge to be able to hit the button to call the elevator.
Exactly.
Great.
And investigating the project, and I know you being an electrician, the pigtails are there. So it's a pretty quick, that's why it's a relatively inexpensive project. Normally, something like this would be much larger in cost, but when they built the building, they put the infrastructure there for us to be able to tie into at a later time if that's what we decided to do.
Perfect.
So this is something that's very commonly done in schools.
It seems very affordable compared with sort of what I know for the numbers.
Yeah.
So, great.
And that's with American Alarm coordinating with our elevator company as well. So there's actually 2 vendors involved. So it is pretty
nice.
It's pretty reasonable.
Great. Cool. And cool to hear about the fly system. I don't know where that goes.
Yeah, it would be great to have.
That was one thing. Is Tom, are we looking towards, is that going to be the same system that goes in the high school?
So that would be it's an interesting point. So it would be nice to have the same system there as is here. That way the students and staff members are all able to sort of graduate from Galvin or have that reciprocity when it comes to working in either venue.
Yeah, and I'm thinking people that sort of rent sort of those spaces to having that, if we're asking them to sort of be trained up on how to use something, or we're offering people to be trained.
We also, when somebody rents, so we do a lot of like dance studios, things of that nature, we'll have a technical person there from our staff to run that equipment for them.
Okay.
And it just becomes a much more attractive rentable space when you have this functioning equipment. And really, to have an auditorium without it is a difficult.
Sure.
Is a difficult thing to do.
Great. Thank you.
My pleasure. If nobody else has any questions, I can move on to the construction update. I'll keep it brief, although there's a lot of things going on out back. Most of it's concrete related at this point. Okay. I wanted to start with the nice picture that Mr. Ingles took and sent to all of us on the topping off ceremony for the steel. I think it was, it's really an excellent event to go out and be able to see what's going on out back and see sort of all the stakeholders involved and who's been on the project and those sorts of things. So it was a pretty cool day to see that. Everybody had the opportunity to sign the beam, and you can see it proudly displayed up on top on the left-hand side of the building if you're out there taking a look. Moving on, you can see the concrete pump truck here, and this is on the back side of the building, something that you wouldn't see looking out from where we are in the high school. So they're pumping concrete up to pour the decks. So most of that work is complete to this point. The concrete pouring on the upper levels, and now they're going to begin to start working on slab on grade, which is the foundation. I can show you sort of an
Tim,
inside.
On that other photo, what are the propane tanks for? Are they kitchen or lab?
That's for the heat that's being pumped into.
Oh, to heat the space for the winter?
Yeah, so if you see that little air handling unit there,
Yeah.
that's sort of
That's
taped
the
into
fuel
the.
for it? Wow.
So that's getting them some heat inside and good on them because this week has just been
brutal.
frigid. So I can't even fathom having to work in a situation like this outdoors right now the way the wind's blowing. So that's the heat.
Okay.
And to get a look inside, this is sort of what we're looking at when they're pouring those decks. So you have a large crew of people who's kind of smoothing out that concrete, and it's just interesting to see these things where you don't normally get to see inside the cloth. I call it cheesecloth, they call it tarps.
Yeah.
And so they're also working right now on a roof drain system. The roof is tarped as well, but they want to be able to displace the rain, and that gutter system is, I call it, it's a gutter system maybe, but it's going to tie into the drainage system that was the beginning part of the project. So it's a good test. And that system can more than handle the rooftop rain draining through it. So
Is that going to the new culvert?
yes,
Nice.
yeah. I think we'll get you another view. I'm sorry, I went too far. This is just another view of what goes into pouring those slabs. Moving down, talking about auditoriums, this is taken from the position if you were standing on stage in our new auditorium looking out to the audience. So it just gives you a little perspective on what's to come. So with pouring slab on grade on the foundation of the building, they're working on a lot of the utilities, electrical, water, all those things that they need on site, and that naturally we'll need when the building opens. So those things are happening right now. So you'll see the building lit up sometimes until 10 o'clock at night. If you came in this evening, you can see it's lit up out back. It's kind of cool to look at, but most of that is concrete inspections. So based on temperature and things of that nature, they're staying late, kind of burning the midnight oil to make sure that the concrete is setting the way that they want it to. I'll leave that up. I think that's it. In general, those are the things that, looking ahead, there's a lot more to come. There'll be lighting coming for the Burnett Field. Sooner than later. That's something that they want to establish very soon. So it's still a very active site, and a lot going on utility-wise. So that's the update. If anybody has any questions?
Any questions? After slab work, are we looking at major sort of utilities? What's going to be like main plumbing lines and sprinkler fitting and
Yeah,
sort
so
of
there's a
electrical?
lot of activity when it comes to mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. A lot of discussions on that coming up, meetings in the coming weeks, based on how they're going to accomplish all those things. A lot of what we're putting in the building is like electric heat, Mitsubishi units, things of that nature. So it's definitely different than any other building that we have in the district. So there'll be a lot of homework to do on prepping to manage that, and how we'll look at that through maintenance schedules and things of that nature. So a lot to learn for me and our crew, but exciting nonetheless.
Cool. Looks great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to
Thank
see
you.
you all. Take care.
Nice job, Tim. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Next on our list is the 25, 26 school calendar that we'd like to move forward tonight for school committee approval, if we can.
I know you've all seen the calendar. I'll just give a little bit of background. We've been working on this probably since November, just trying to, just think about all of our commitments and the best way to structure the days. So we've met with administrative groups, we met with the WEA leadership. We sent a first version out, WPSL, with a survey for some feedback. Two of the big points of feedback that we were seeking this year were related to changes that we made this year, which included professional development happening on Fridays instead of Wednesdays. And this year we moved conferences a little bit later to December. They had historically been in probably the second week of November, usually around Veterans Day. Fridays, overwhelmingly, I think people are happy with the Friday PD. I kind of knew that even before the survey, just being in the buildings. There's really been good energy, and just hearsay that people are pretty happy with that. And I think on the parent family side too, we've heard some pretty good feedback. So that will be the plan for next year. Conferences was more tricky for us to come to consistent agreement on. We had a lot of different perspectives at every level as to why the November were better than December, and so it's the right thing to do how we structured it, but it will require, I think, some heavy communication from our principals around conference time, because the best way to split it was to do the first pre-K through 4 conference, and then the high school conference is on November 21st, and then the second pre-K to 4 conference and the Galvin conferences in December. Galvin really felt like the December conferences worked well on their end. So I think it works. We kind of compromised, came up with what worked well for everyone, but I do think it'll require heavy communication so people don't see that half day color coded and think it's district wide, because it is split. Yeah, other than that, I think we've talked about a lot. This will be the first year per the latest contract where we are able to start staff days before Labor Day. So that does give us a little more flexibility. We have our 2 staff days happening the 27th and the 28th of August. So that gets students back the Tuesday after Labor Day, which historically they've gone usually the Thursday. I think those were all the big points I wanted to hit. Just the idea of getting it to you at this time of year. Spring is heavy planning for the following school year. So our ideal is to get the next year's calendar secured so we know what we're working with for dates for planning purposes. But happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Pete?
I appreciate that we sent out the surveys to staff and we tried to accommodate as much of their feedback as possible. I know that not all the feedback is necessarily consistent. Some people may like X, some people may like Y, but I know that you worked hard to accommodate as much of that feedback as possible, and I think that hopefully they appreciate that.
Anyone else?
I did, sorry, I just wanted to mention one other thing. I did share with you, Melissa and I had emailed a bit about the religious holiday attachment. I did link it at the bottom, you can see. And so I didn't know if there's feedback on that as well. We can talk about it, or if that will be an attachment.
Great.
That will go with the calendar as well, just outlining all of the religious holidays that fall within the school year.
I think I do see in that some of the feedback that we got sort of from last year's calendar, and I appreciate that that's sort of reflected, because it is, it's a growing thing. Sort of, it's hard to get perfection, but the growth is very much appreciated. One thing I was going to ask is I got an email from someone that was curious if we could add back in the school hours to the calendar.
Oh, yeah.
In the PDF, the way it shows up on the website.
We can. I just have to figure out how to fit it in.
So I
It's always
just
a
got
formatting nightmare
just
when
an
I try.
email
Yeah.
from someone that was just like, it really is me, because I forget when the days are. But if you could make it really easy to go and find that,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I know it's a couple clicks in here, but it's like, it used to be on the back of the can.
It is nice when we have it, and then we have the early dismissal
Yeah.
times. Yeah, we'll figure out a way to do that.
If there's a way, yeah. But that's fantastic. And yeah, my kids were super excited about the extended holiday break, and then their eyes got really bright when I told them like what the potential last day of school could be. So.
Good.
All right.
Yeah,
That's
pretty good
great.
feedback overall. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like starting the Tuesday after Labor Day
Yeah.
too, and not
Yeah.
Thursday.
Agree. Yeah, we're always the latest.
Yeah, we're always the latest, so
Yeah.
we'll be right on track with
Yeah.
everyone else.
It gives us a little more flexibility with
Yeah.
June and in the extended
Yeah.
December break.
Do I make a motion to accept?
Yeah, unless anyone has any objection.
All right.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the 2025, 2026 Wakefield school calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Unanimous. Thanks for all the work.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Kara. Kara did a really great job and spent a lot of time. And thanks to the WEA leaders who also contributed to this as well. So I appreciate that.
Kara, I had one question, non-calendar related,
Yep.
but just because it also came up. When are emails regarding kindergarten registration going to go out?
Very soon. Yeah,
Okay.
we just secured the dates. We're looking, I don't have it totally off the top. I think January 16th to February 3rd, if I'm remembering correctly, is going to be the window.
Okay.
And we'll get that out very soon.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
So the last item is just a late start update. And so just in terms of where we are. And so we're hosting 3 community forums. So we had our first, which talked about the science that supports the concept of late start and the benefit of additional time for especially our high school students. And so that was covered in the first forum. The second forum will be with myself, Kara, and the principals. We're going to talk about, again, it's an opportunity for us to talk about the complexity of this. And then the third one, the third forum, we will have personnel that are responsible for extracurricular activities. We're also we will be working with the teachers union, the Wakefield Education Association, to get feedback from not only them, but from teachers as well in this process. So again, just to go back to kind of the work. So the idea is that we're gonna kind of have these forums to collect information, to figure out how we can problem solve and thoughtfully make a proposal to school committee. So that proposal would be, probably 3 options, 2 options for late start and maybe an option for no change, an A, a B, and a C. And then what we would do is I would ask if the committee so chose to support a later start, I would ask that the committee please ask the labor subcommittee to work with the administration to then go back to the WEA and impact bargain the change, right? Because the high school schedule exists in the contract, any changes that we make to the high school schedule needs to be impact bargained. So, and the timeline that I would suggest, and this is the purview of the school committee, but I would suggest that if at the end of this, we make 3 recommendations, the committee choose one of those recommendations, either a later start A, later start B, or no change. If there's no change, we're still going to need to impact bargain the new high school schedule, because when we move into the new high school, is going to need to be a different student schedule, right? Because of the size of the high school and the size of the cafeteria. What we're suggesting is that we roll all of this into one task and impact bargain. If we're going to do a late start, that we look at late start, and we also look at the new high school schedule, thoughtfully work with a teacher leadership group, take their feedback, really figure out how we can do this well, and we would then implement the changes to the schedule if we go in that direction, in September of '26, not September of '25. So a year from this September. So, some people have asked, is that a long time? To bargain? Not really, because there's a lot of moving parts. It also aligns with the year that we're going to be moving into the new high school, and there's going to need to be a new schedule there as well. So it's kind of aligning work and aligning timelines would be kind of the recommendations, plural. There'll be 3 recommendations. But the Student Services Subcommittee, of which Eileen is the chair, has been kind of overseeing this. The administration is kind of guiding this work, but our next forum will be next week on the 16th, and then the forum after that will be on the 5th. The next forum will be with principals to talk about just kind of challenges that we think we're seeing, and just to be able to share that and to take questions and answers. We also talked today, we met with the WEA, the leadership group at our joint labor management meeting, and we talked about the idea of sending out the possibility of sending out either a joint survey and creating opportunities for teachers to participate and for us to also direct, kind of keep teachers informed about this. So I'll be sending a note tomorrow, actually by Thursday morning, out to the WPS all staff, because it's not just teachers that are impacted here, it's all staff. So we will be sending a WPS out to all staff, just informing them of the arc of the work, the goal of the work. Again, it is to make a thoughtful proposal, to investigate and make a thoughtful proposal to the school committee about later start times, right? And how we might be able to do that. And then we would go from there. So, did I cover it?
Yeah, and I just want to clarify once again that we're working on the research part of it still and seeing how this would affect the community. That's why we're having the open forums and everything. It's not something that is set in stone. We do not have set times right now. That's one question that I know I've been seeing. It's really just to kind of see how something like this would impact the community. So we encourage people who do have opinions and concerns and everything to send questions ahead of time, to attend the open forums. I believe in the next communication, we're going to be sending out a Google form so that people can submit their questions ahead of time as well. That maybe can't come to the meeting, but we'll watch it, the recorded version after. So we encourage people to, and just for people to know that it would not go into effect next school year, for example. It's all things you just said, but I just wanted to, people, I think, from what I saw, some parents were concerned and kind of panicking it was going to happen like next school year, and that's not the case. So we just I just want to smooth that all over, that is not happening, and that it is a work in progress. There was one other thing I wanted to add on to what you had said, but no, I don't think it was the question that you can submit questions ahead of time, because that was another question that I got. If people could submit them.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have a Google Doc out there for community members to be able to give questions in advance.
Yeah.
Especially for building administration to be able to look at these questions in advance, to be able to anticipate, all the questions that parents could have and staff could have. One question I had, I know a ton of districts have already made this move. I was wondering if, I assume all of the possible questions and, potential conflicts, I'm sure have already been brought up in other communities. I almost wonder if there's some Google Doc, a master Google Doc with all these questions. Because I just know when I'll go to the next forum, and I could come up with 4 to 5 questions that I'm interested in. But then, whenever this stuff happens, when I look at a master list of questions, oh my gosh, that's so important. I never thought of that. I just wonder if that's out there. If there's some
There's not, but I know
list.
that we were talking about having a landing page for people to go to for this initiative, so that they could refer to frequently asked questions. We don't have that right now.
Yeah.
Right, but
we don't. But when we make the recommendation, we will.
Yeah.
And just to kind of create a context for this work, and something that you said is really important, Kevin, is we're not the first district to do this.
No.
You know, in the Middlesex League, there are 12 districts, right? There are 4 of which have not made a change. Or actually now I think it's 3 because one just recently made a change, Wilmington. And so we are one of 3. So we are not new in this space. Some people have made small changes. Some districts have made no changes. So, you know, back to this, all problems are local, right? So what we need to do is figure out what could best serve our students and best serve our community, right? Because it's not all one or all of the other. It's our students and our community. That's something that I think we have a thoughtful responsibility to kind of present at the end of this. But at the end, I think everyone will have had an opportunity to weigh in, either verbally or in writing, in any form or format or modality what best meets their needs. We're also welcome anyone and everyone to come to the public forums, right? To, again, give us input on, you know, and again, input on how we might make the best proposal that we can. That's our goal right now, right? Our goal is to make a proposal to school committee, or actually more than one, make an A, a B, and a C. And then kind of work on this over time with teachers to really create the best system that we can.
I think it's important to know, I think sometimes from the outside it can feel to some people like it's a little bit of inside baseball. I think the first forum, it was a bit of a presentation, and there were some questions that had come from sort of some folks who had attended. And with the second forum being sort of principles and stuff, it can sometimes feel like people will think that you're just asking questions of people that you sort of brought, and so it can feel a little bit like inside baseball. And so just to, like, I don't think we can stress enough that, like, this is a community forum. If you have questions, well, yes, you could fill out a form. You also, if you're able, could come and ask your question live and sort of have it answered. It's a very open process. And so I don't want people to think that there's any, because that's the sense that I get, is that people think there's a foregone conclusion, and there isn't.
Yeah.
And so we can't sort of stress that enough. This is just us doing our due diligence and trying to do it in a way that's respectful of people's time and of a process.
I think people will see that it's not a foregone conclusion, as Eileen has said. It's not a foregone conclusion. I think they'll see that when we start to share the complexity of a change like this.
Sure.
Right? And how it's like a Sudoku problem where you make a change, you know, a change at high school, it can affect middle and elementary, or it will affect elementary and middle. It's going to affect transportation. It's going to affect, you know, any number of things, right? So yeah, we're not leading with, you know, a problem that's solved. We're right now leading with sharing the problems that we have and really trying to take thoughtful input on how we might address those problems.
And change is hard, no matter what. So but we don't want to not do something because it's hard. We want to really look at it and see if it's the best thing for our community, and then we can decide from there. And it's going to be hard. Change is hard. You're used to a certain schedule, but we can do it.
One thing that we did learn.
We can do hard things. Yes.
One thing that we did learn, Kevin, is we invited a superintendent from the Middlesex League that made this change, and came to our subcommittee and talked for probably an hour 15.
Oh yeah, he gave us a lot of time.
a lot of time and a lot of information about what went well, what didn't. We've also gotten information from other veteran superintendents that have been in the space, and you know, we are, one of the things I shared today at JLMC is, you know, no committee has or will have taken the time at the end that we have taken, no matter what decision we make, right? And so that's kind of where we're at. So, yeah. So that's where we're at. And we will continue to keep the committee updated. We will continue to keep faculty, staff updated as well. So there'll be a communication going out from our office on Thursday about this. So, and you will all be copied on it. Yeah.
Good.
And the Google form will be on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just simple, if you have any
If you
questions
have-
you'd like to submit, just no opinions or anything, just simple submit
Yeah.
questions. Yeah, that's how we're
Perfect.
going to do it.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. That's it for me.
All right, wonderful. Chair comments on items. I don't really have much. I will share that I think I'm going to start coming to school committee meetings early because I got to see a couple of girls' basketball games. They played against my old alma mater, Belmont. I've never been so happy to root against my home team. But what a nail biter! I think the JV team or freshman team.
I think it was JV.
JV 23-21 came down to like the last 40 seconds. It was awesome. It was awesome. So I might just have to start coming early to meetings, and I'll stay later when the marching band plays if we can still go back to watch them play. So welcome everybody back into the new year. It seems like we were just starting like months ago, or just yesterday, and we're already where we are now. So moving fast. I think maybe now we can talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, Kevin, we'll take it out of your subcommittee report.
Sure.
If you can just give us an update on sort of the work that Labor's been doing for our school committee secretary position. I know you guys have been working a lot at it, and maybe give us an update.
Absolutely, yeah, happy to. So the subcommittee met on December 13th, and we reviewed the resumes that we had received. We identified 3 finalists, which we have invited here to Wakefield to interview tomorrow. So those meetings will take place tomorrow afternoon. We have 3 finalists, so we'll meet with all of them tomorrow. Since then, we also crafted our interview questions, kind of our interview protocol, and are all ready to go with that. Our hope is to identify a top candidate, and then kind of depending upon the will of the committee, if that's something you'd like us to kind of move forward with the finalists, to invite them maybe to our next meeting for final approval, or kind of take the direction from the committee of what you'd like us to do. But we're prepared to kind of move forward as quickly as you're all willing us to move forward, check references, do those sorts of things, if that's the will of everybody here. But I think we're in great shape, really excited about the individuals that we have, and really grateful for the work that's been done recently by everyone in Doug's staff. But it'll be nice to have a secretary or clerk on board. So I'm excited about tomorrow to kind of see how those go. So
That's great. Any questions for Kevin on process?
I guess, are people comfortable with us kind of moving forward?
I was going to say, I think for myself, I think I'm comfortable with the labor committee, with Tom and Kevin having sort of years on school committee. They kind of know, I think, what the committee needs from a secretary and a clerk. And I think, Kevin, you bring, being even a newer person of this body, but also a teacher perspective. So I think between the 3 of you, if you're comfortable, I'm happy with sort of empowering you to sort of pick a person that you think sort of is the best fit for sort of the needs of the body. And then I think if you make that determination, and then you just have like the finalist, if you just want to have them come to a meeting, and sort of we can make introductions and sort of just check the box for what you guys come up with. And appreciate the work, and I don't imagine it's easy, sort of like finagling schedules and sort of going over people's resumes, and but thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. No, looking forward to it.
Is everyone okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to subcommittee reports. Finance and facilities, Mr. Markham is not here, but we can give an update, which is just to say we continue to work through the budget process, and coming up with, we're going to have to start scheduling some meetings with our FinCom reps, getting things in line. We had one meeting that was scheduled prior to the holiday, but we ended up having to cancel for, I think, posting reasons. And then we have one coming up, I believe next week. If I'm not, that's right, I keep forgetting. So we have one coming up next week, so there should be more to report at the 21st meeting. But everything is sort of chugging along per the usual. So labor and personnel?
Sure, just a couple more things. So as I had mentioned, we met on that 13th. We had our first meeting with Unit C of the WEA on Wednesday, December 18th. So I had a good kind of opening meeting, started to talk about ground rules, and kind of our expectations for moving forward. So happy to kind of get that going, particularly before the new year. I thought it was a good meeting. Our next meeting, of course, is tomorrow for the interviews. And then on Friday, we are meeting again to just start to plan for negotiations. Our next session with WEA's Unit C is going to be January 22nd. So get some meetings on the books and hopefully moving forward with those things. We also have gotten some notifications from some of our other bargaining units that they too would like to commence bargaining. So working with the superintendent to get some dates going on those too. So we'll have a lot of work to do this semester coming up, but I think it'll be a great negotiating process for all of them. So looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you. Student services. Colin.
Well, we just talked about the late start, so I'm not going to talk about that. But the notes from the Student Services Subcommittee are in the packet. But we invited Ann Herzog from CPAC to come to our meeting to discuss better ways that the Student Services Subcommittee and the school committee in general can just be better partners and work with CPAC. And so we talked about increased communication and visibility of students with disabilities in our schools, and increase in public knowledge of programs and resources. And Rosie's putting together newsletters and communications with different kinds of resources that are available to students, based on disabilities and needs and everything. But, just the greater community doesn't know what they don't know, and they don't know what's available. And so just kind of having a better idea of what's available for students with disabilities in our schools. And so more to come on that. We have Rosie has some exciting things that she's working out, and we're kind of working on a communication plan of how it gets out there. And then just a little shout out, this is kind of going into like the CPAC liaison, but I'm going to give it a shout out anyway right now, is Thursday, I keep thinking it's Wednesday, Thursday night at 7, there's a Understanding the IEP, Knowing Your Basic Rights, that CPAC is putting on. It's a virtual event, and I encourage anyone to go who either has a child on an IEP or is considering getting their child on an IEP or just curious about the whole process. This is, I think, the second or third one that they've done, at least the second one they've done this year, so I think it's really important.
Great.
Yeah.
We also talked a little bit about LAD, right? And if there was
Yes. And I talked to Rosie about it the next day because we had a CPAC meeting the next day. We did a lot in like 2 days, but we did talk about that, and she was going to reach out to the PTOs or the school principals, I think, to reach out to the PTOs of how we can kind of bring that back, because that was a position within the PTOs, a LAD coordinator, I think is what it was.
Learning about
disabilities.
And differences?
Yes.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah. And we think it stopped around 2019, 2020. And it's just never restarted, and those positions on the PTO don't seem to be there anymore, or I'm not really sure. So I think she's going to reach out to the building principals, was going to be her start, and then see if we can kind of get that reorganized, and we would support as needed.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Policy and communications, Pete?
So we have not met. We do have one date penciled in late this month for the full subcommittee to meet. I'm looking to book some time to schedule another meeting, even if it just ends up being Melissa and myself, because I know Eileen may not be able to make that particular time, just so we can continue to work through some of the open items. Specifically on my mind are the 2 policies that I need to continue to work on. I'd like to maybe brainstorm with Melissa in a meeting and see if we can maybe have something to discuss towards the end of the month. And then the good news is Melissa's been working with the superintendent on the various book reviews, so I'm hoping at some point soon we'll have multiple books back in your packets for review, and
the different policy sections.
Different policy sections from the policy book, sorry, just to clarify.
Book reviews.
To lay on the table for review. Sorry, go ahead, Doug.
Now, I think you're spot on. Melissa's become like the policy guru, right? And so she's all over this, which is great. But I also want to highlight, because it connects with Eileen's comments about CPAC. And so we've drafted a CPAC policy, which CPAC asked us when they came here. So we've drafted a CPAC policy, and we've gotten feedback from CPAC. And so that will also, we will try to get that on the next subcommittee meeting agenda. And I think we can edit that and polish that up and move that forward, hopefully quickly. Yeah, so
Great.
more to follow.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a lot of work. All right, liaison reports, if any. Pete?
So the Human Rights Commission will have their annual MLK Jr. Coretta Scott King Day commemoration event at the Galvin on Monday the 20th at 10 a.m. There's also an opportunity for Wakefield students to participate in the event. They can participate by submitting photos, drawings, sculptures that illustrate work of either MLK Jr. or Coretta Scott King. And there's different prizes they can get. There's gift cards, there's $25 gift cards, there's Cravings gift cards, there's potentially a pizza party for a best class project, and they're also planning to show the artwork from the students during the event. And the deadline to submit any of those is January 11th. And they can submit that via email, a photo of whatever they want to submit, to the WHRC at Wakefield MAUS email address.
Great.
I
Thank
think, I know, at least at Dolbear, and I think Mr. Zini teaches at a few of the elementary schools, or maybe just Dolbear, but they are looking for singers for that celebration as well, and the deadline to sign up for that is January 9th.
Very good. Okay, thank you. You can check the list for future dates and agenda items. Our next school committee meeting will be January 21st. Then we have the MTSS and intervention, program of studies, NEASC updates, which will be just their readout from what their discovery, what their findings were. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Superintendent evaluations and negotiation updates. Fun stuff. School committee comments. Eileen?
Tickets are on sale for Frozen Junior at Galvin Middle School for the weekend of the January 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th. There are 7 p.m. shows, and then the Sunday performance is at 2 p.m. And tickets are going fast, so I would get them ASAP. Because they're going fast. I already got mine.
Great.
Yeah.
Anyone else? No? I will just mention that I believe it is next week, next Tuesday, January 14th, Woodville is holding their, I think this is going to be 4th annual We Are Woodville celebration, where they just sort of celebrate the different cultures that our families bring to the Woodville School. It is 6 to 7:30 over at the Woodville. I think there's going to be some lion dancing, and just a number of different sort of exhibits. So it's always a fun take for families to be able to share sort of what's important to them in their households. So love that they put that on, and the PTO always does a really good job with that. So that is all I had. It'll be an early night.
Just have a quick question.
Yes,
Stephen.
Pete.
Can you refresh our memory? What's the deadline for us to do our pieces for the superintendent evaluation?
You could have been doing it at any time.
Yeah. If you're a procrastinator, when do you have to get it done by?
I would say we'll try and do it by the end of this month. What I would like to do is, if you can, what I'm trying to put together is a more formal document that has review processes from DESI, and just to give a cleaner outline. There's a document that does exist. I'd like to marry that with sort of our district goals and our superintendent goals, just to make it an easier read. That's been what's successful for me in the past, but Adobe Acrobat's been being a little particular with me lately about how I format things. So I'll wrestle that bear to the ground and get that out to folks. But at any time, please feel free to, you already have, I've submitted sort of what Doug's superintendent goals were and what our district goals were with the relevant evidence. If you have any, and what the rubrics are for sort of, so I'm trying to put together a clean document that is easy to sort of input information into, but you should have all of the parts and pieces that you need to sort of be informed and then be able to craft questions that you may have of the superintendent to fill in any gaps that you might have about sort of what your expectations are, what the goals were, that sort of thing. So by all means, that work can be commencing, as soon as you like. Set up a time with Doug, find a time that works for you both, and by all means have those conversations and be ready to sort of collate your notes, and then I'll be taking those sort of forms, the reviews, and sort of collating them into one more cohesive document that we can then share out sort of in the meeting.
And so just to clarify, you're expecting our input to you, our final review after meeting with the superintendent, but by the, yes, but you're.
End of the month.
End of the month, okay.
Okay. All right.
That's the answer you're waiting for.
That's all.
There you
Is that
go.
the one?
Yes.
All right. All right, if there are no other comments, I think there is a motion to adjourn.
Move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of Tuesday, January 7th, 2025.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, those in favor? Yay. All right. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.